Hey guys, how's it going? Wanted to do a video for you because I happen to have all these parts laying in front of me here, and just show you a comparison to some of the different bolt and buffer combinations that you could do for the Toki Marui MWS. Now, there's a lot of combinations here, as you can see, because you can kind of mix and match parts, and I'm not going to be able to like directly compare everything. It would take forever, but I do have some different bolts in various stages, and I have some buffers with different setups, and just wanted to weigh them for you, and then I'll go into some considerations. Try to keep this short, but it might take a bit, so bear with me. I'll timestamp for you guys if you just want to skip to like the weights and some of my afterthoughts and stuff. So getting into it, let's just show you what I got here. We have for buffers, I have the stock Toki Marui plastic buffer. I have two of the GMP V1 aluminum buffers. I have the GMP V2 buffer. I have the Angry Gun super heavy recoil buffer, and this is a Real Steel AR-15 H2 buffer. So going into the bolts, we have a stock Toki Marui bolt, a Hao Bolt, a GMP bolt, and the Angry Gun bolt. And then this is a Real Steel AR-15 bolt, just for comparison. Over here, I also have another stock bolt and another Hao bolt, but these two are gutted, they're empty. So I wanted to show you the weights, kind of empty and then kind of complete, just to give you some comparison there. So let's get into weighing it. I'll start with the buffers. So here's the stock TM plastic buffer, 0.85 ounces. Here's a GMP V1, 3.77 ounces. Now this has all tungsten weights in there, which is the heaviest weights you can put in there. This is another V1 GMP coming at 3.7 ounces. I believe this has like 2 tungsten and maybe 1 steel because I ran out of tungsten. Here's a V2 GMP volt, 2.82 ounces. This, I believe, has all steel weights in there. Here's the Real Steel H2 buffer, which I believe it's 2 tungsten, 1 steel. I'm not sure. You have to Google that. It's coming at 4.62 ounces, so nice considerable difference, even compared to the GMP with all tungsten. It's a bit heavier. And here's the granddaddy, the Angry Gun super heavy recoil buffer, coming in at a whopping almost 6 ounces, 5.96 ounces. Now with these buffers, pretty much all of these, except for the Angry Gun and the stock, are tunable. So basically you can knock out this pin here, pull out this little stopper, and then you can swap the weights that go in here. Actually, on the GMP V2, this one actually has a top removable, so you can unscrew that and access your weights there, which is nice, and you don't have to mess with that pin, because it can be kind of a pain to get in there. If you see like this one, it's kind of bent a little bit, so it's not lining up as good. But yeah, with these and with the real one, you would knock out the pin and then remove this, and then you can swap your weights in there. So that gives you some tuning and adjustability if you're after, if you want to use the one-piece aluminum buffer and you want to do lightweight weights, buffer weights, or if you want to do heavyweight ones, depending on your setup, that's the nice thing about these, is they're tunable. But as you just saw, if you're just after if you're after airsoft parts, the heaviest one you can buy is this Angry Gun super heavy recoil, and it's a lot of fun to shoot, I'll tell you. I love these. I've been considering putting these into all of my guns for summertime when it can handle it. But the one thing I don't like about these, one is they're spring loaded. Same with the stock buffer. I don't like spring loaded buffers if I can help it. I'd rather have a one piece like all of these, because it can be inconsistent, right? Like if your operating system is when it's cycling, maybe depending on the pressure and the gas, maybe it's fully compressing, maybe the next time it's half compressing. You kind of never know. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter for your shooting performance, but it does matter when you're tuning your buffer. You want to make sure that you are fully compressing this, and this one's really stiff, so you got to really really make sure that's fully compressed as you're tuning your buffer system, to make sure you don't get bolt over travel, which I'll probably do a separate video on that sometime, because it might take a bit to show and explain. But yeah, I guess we'll just stick with buffer considerations for now. So yeah, the stock one again is spring loaded, but it's really lightweight. So if you're in wintertime or you're just after snappiness, then I'd probably recommend one of these with some lightweights in it, or you can just use your stock one. As long as it's not like summertime with super high pressure, these should last a while. I have had one blow up on me, but it was summer. It was like over 90 degrees Fahrenheit out, and it is plastic, right? So it's going to be less durable than an aluminum buffer. Obviously, they should last thousands of rounds, but it does have the potential to break just because the nature of it is it's made out of plastic. So I do recommend upgrading to an aluminum one of some sort. It's a nice upgrade for reliability, and it gives you that adjustability with the weights. You can fine tune it, which is cool. Personally, I love heavy setups just because I like the recoil impulse. It makes shooting it a lot of fun. So if I can get away with it, so like spring, summer, fall even, I can get away with like my heavy setups. If it's really cold, like freezing or sub-freezing, well, that's when I need to go to either like the stock setup, the stock one, or a lightweight aluminum one, just to lighten up the system. But so for heavy, I really like these Angry Guns. They're just so much fun. As you saw, they're really heavy, like almost 6 times the weight of a stock one. But I don't like spring loaded, and I don't like this pin keeps wanting to walk out. I haven't had it like fully come apart, but it kind of concerns me. And I've got a lot of use on this thing, and I've never had it come apart, but I just don't like that. And now this pin is bent, and it won't really like seat in there properly anymore. So that's something I don't like. So I'm kind of considering going with real steel buffers. I know a couple guys that do this, and I've been wanting to try it. I never have. I actually still haven't. I'm gonna try it right now. But one, it's still tunable, unlike the Angry Gun, and it's already coming in at, this is H2. It's already coming in at 4.62 ounces. There's H3, which is even heavier, or you could go up to a rifle length buffer, which I haven't tried that. With that, you might need a longer buffer too. I'm pretty sure you probably will, because they're pretty long. So that might not be an option, but still, this is what, 4.6 ounces, and this is about 6 ounces, so 5.96. And this one, I know I could add, I believe the H2 buffer is 2 tungsten, 1 steel, so I could add another tungsten in here and get some more weight. The difference between those two, will you really notice it in felt recoil? I don't know. Haven't tried it yet, but I bet you this is going to feel really good. And these are just more available and cheaper, easier to get, really. The only place I know that sells these Angry Guns is JK Army. And if you know them, they're kind of atrocious on their shipping. I think these are like $45 each. Real buffers are probably about the same price, to be honest. Like, depends where you get them, which brand you get, but I think these usually run $30 to $40 too. So, but yeah, some considerations for your buffers. Okay, moving into the bolts. Here's some empty shells. Oops, we'll start with that. So here's a stock TM bolt, 5.64 ounces, versus, this is the only one I have that's gutted. This is the Hao Bolt, 2.33 ounces, so about half the weight of the stock one. So if you're after a lightweight bolt, pretty much every aftermarket bolt for the MWS is going to be lightweight, and they all are going to do the job fine. If you're after something for wintertime, colder temps, you need a lighter bolt. Any of these will work. If you want just snappier trigger response or a higher rate of fire or something, any of these will work. But yeah, there's the Hao. It's about half the weight of the stock one. Over here, these ones are pretty much complete. This one's missing a couple of the top screws, but we'll just say that these are pretty much all built out minus the bolt ends. So let's weigh these real quick. This is the stock one, 6.56 ounces. So let's just see, without parts, 5.6 ounces. So about an ounce for all the nozzle and internal parts there. So again, 6.56 on the stock bolt. This is another Hao, 3.25 for the Hao. This is GMP, 3.56 for the GMP. Angry Gun, 2.93. So of the aftermarket bolts I have, the Angry Gun is the lightest one. So if you're after the lightest possible setup, you know, the Angry Gun would be one to look at. These are the bolt end pieces, kind of like that. They just, you know, screw onto the back of the bolt. These are stock Tokyo Marui end pieces, 0.99. Here's another stock one just for comparison, 0.99 also. These are the Hao bolt end pieces, 2.93. So these are the heaviest bolt end pieces you can get, and as you saw, it's almost 3 times the weight of the stock one. GMP roller bolt ends, 1.06. Again, 1.06. So these are all pretty consistent. And this is the Angry Gun, 1.06 also. Interesting. So the Angry Gun and the GMP roller bolt end are basically the same weight. So maybe if you wanted the Angry Gun, but for whatever reason you wanted the roller bolt end, you could swap that out and it's going to be the same weight essentially. Or if you wanted the ultimate lightest setup, you could use the Angry Gun with the stock end piece, which is, you know what, 0.07 ounces lighter. So that would give you the lightest possible setup. On the inverse, if you wanted the heaviest possible setup for, again, like recoil fun, you would want to use the Hao bolt end with the stock bolt. That's going to give you 9.49 ounces. Let's do that real quick. So the lightest setup I found is the Angry Gun with the stock end piece, 3.92 ounces. Pretty considerable, 3.92, let's say 4 ounces versus the heaviest setup could be 9.5 ounces. Wow. Here's like a stock setup, 7.55 ounces. I'm not weighing the screws, but you know, whatever. So yeah, and then, you know, honestly, these are all pretty comparable, I'd say, but basically this is a really nice combination. If you use the stock bolt with the heavy buffer, and then this Angry Gun, stock bolt carrier, Hao bolt end, Angry Gun, super heavy recoil buffer. Excuse me, that's going to give you the heaviest possible combo you could get right there, for the most part. You know, unless you did some funky stuff with the real steel. So 15.45. Let's see with the real steel, 14.11. So you're losing about 1.5 ounces. And again, I could make this a little heavier if I wanted. So yeah, you can just see right there, right? You guys can mix and match as you want. Some other considerations real quick. The roller bolt ends, are they necessary? I don't really think so. I think they're a bit of a gimmick, but what they're supposed to do is kind of keep the bolt centered more in the buffer tube, which I suppose they do. You know, I'm not that techie or some engineer with these, but I've never had a problem with just running a smooth bolt end, so I don't really see that as a necessary thing. But they do come with the GMP bolts, which is nice. What else? The Angry Gun bolt, I bought this one complete. They might sell it with just the bolt carrier group, like without all the guts. Oops, which if they do, I'd recommend, because in my experience and a lot of others, the Angry Gun nozzles are like trash. They're MPA nozzle, which is an adjustable impasse nozzle, when I threw it in my gun, it straight away was shooting all over the place. BBs were dropping out of the barrel. I chrono tested it. FPS was all over the place, super inconsistent. It's basically trash. So I took that out straight away and put in a stock Tokyo Marui nozzle, which are really good. They're really reliable. They'll last, thousands around typically. And yeah, so I don't like the Anchor Gun internals, but no problem with their actual bolt carrier whatsoever. And it is super lightweight, as you saw. If you are building a bolt, like if you buy a Hao, it's going to come like this with just the empty bolt carrier and then the end piece. And you're going to need all the internal parts. So I would recommend buying the GMP complete bolt kit. It comes with every single part that you'll need to complete this for like $40 or so. Guns Modify also markets a complete bolt kit for like $30 or so, maybe like $5-10 less. It's not complete. It's missing some parts that you're going to need, which I found out the hard way. So yeah, if you really need all the parts, if you just have a shell like this, do not buy the Guns Modify complete bolt kit. Buy the GMP one instead. Save yourself some headache there. And if you go on Red Wolf, they sell both. You can just look at the stock photos and you can visually see the Guns Modify complete bolt kit it doesn't have all the parts you need. And you look at the GMP one and it does. So that's that. If you're just after like replacement nozzles, like if you see this guy, this one's super chewed up. I forgot what happened there. I've never really seen one that bad before, but if you just need a replacement nozzle, I like the stock ones, Tokyo Marui, if you can get them. The only place I know that sells them is Impulse 101 in Japan, but it's pretty hit or miss whether they'll have them in stock or not. So if they do, grab a few, stock up, but usually they don't have them in stock. So my next best one is Guns Modify. I do like the Guns Modify nozzle. Like I said, their complete kit isn't exactly complete, but they do make a good nozzle and all their... okay, I do like Guns Modify nozzles. GMP nozzles should be fine too. T8 nozzles are also good. I've heard. I've never used them, but yeah, I've had no problems with GMP or Guns Modify or of course stock. Now, when it comes to nozzle return springs, if you're looking to upgrade that, I haven't used them all, but I stick with Dynamic Precision because I've never had a problem with it. I don't recommend the Guns Modify nozzle return springs because they're shorter. They're like really short, and it makes installation really hard because basically this firing pin back here won't reach all the way through the hole because the spring's so short. You have to like stretch it. And then I actually took that one apart the other day to come to find out that now that spring is super stretched. It didn't break or anything, which is good. It's still working, but it just seems like a dumb design. So I like the Dynamic Precision one. It just drops right in. It just fits how it should, makes installation a lot easier, and it's not going to like stretch out and potentially possibly break. But yeah, so that's nozzle return springs. I don't want to run this too long. I was going to show you kind of the comparison. I'll try to do it real quick. You know what? I'll do that in another video because this is already getting long. But this is mainly just some considerations for weights and a few parts. I don't have a problem with really any of these bolts. There's no problem with any of the bolts. They have some slightly different designs, I'll say. The only one to consider I don't really like is the Hao. If you can see here, the Hao on that back part, this roller wheel, it's just secured by a screw that threads into here. And that has been, I know two people basically where that screw has like unthreaded itself. And then this can just fall out into your trigger box or whatever. But I don't like that part about the Hao Bolt. I haven't used these ones a lot, but I haven't had that happen to me. I took this apart last night to look at it, and they were thread locked, so it shouldn't happen, but it could. So that's something to think about with the Hao. You might want to like check that that's thread locked or add some better thread lock. But you also want to make sure that this still spins freely if you do that. All these other bolts, like the stock one, they all use some variation of the same design, which has a pin running across the top of this roller wheel here, which would prevent this from ever coming out. So it's a better design. I don't know why Hao decided to change that. Among other things, I don't know why Hao decided to do. But yeah, I mean, even so, you look at the Angry Gun, it's different, but you can see there's a cross pin there that keeps this all in there. That's never going to fall out. The GMP, again, very similar to stock, has a cross pin, never going to fall out. This is a slightly thicker pin and a slightly thicker wheel, but basically the same as stock. So yeah, that's that. I guess real quick, I'll just run through these. So the other differences is here on the rear where the hammer strikes, it's just kind of hits the metal there. This one is a lot more use. This one's pretty much new, or it is new. You can see this is what it looks like after some use. It gets kind of chewed up, but it's not really an issue. Some people ask like, hey, is this normal? Is that a problem? Yeah, it is normal, unfortunately, whatever, but it's never caused a problem. You know, you can see it's kind of mushing into the metal there. If it gets real bad, you can file it down, but I seriously must have over 50,000 rounds through this bolt, if not a lot more. Lost track because I kind of used a lot of different ones, but this was I think my stock original bolt, and so it's got the most use on it. And yeah, still chugging along. Here in the front is where the Z plate catches, or your bolt catch, your bolt stop. And if you can see, it's kind of like a little insert piece. Looks like those pins hold this little piece in here. So I'm guessing that's some reinforced steel. And yeah, that's held up great. Again, over 50,000 rounds on this bolt, no problems. Compared to the Hao, again, I showed you that roller wheel thing I don't like with the screw. This again is just kind of contacts there. I don't know if this little part is reinforced, but I don't anticipate any problem there. And then for the Z plate, the bolt catch, it has like a little reinforced steel insert there. So that's how they did that, which works. For Angry Gun, again, I showed you that wheel already. They have this kind of little spring-loaded thing for where the hammer strikes. I'm guessing, you know, that's a nice thick steel compared to this lightweight aluminum bolt, so that's good. And then up here, the bolt catch, it's similar design, you know, to stock. It's got a reinforced steel insert or whatever that material is. GMP, they look like, yeah, it's got a nice chunky kind of thing here. This bolt's pretty new still. I've just started using it, but yeah, I think that's going to hold up really nicely there. And again, very similar to stock design on the bolt catch there. So don't have a problem with any of these bolts. They all function just fine, I think. I never weighed forgot to weigh this guy just for shoots and giggles, but this is a real steel AR-15, you know, M16 style bolt. 11.64 ounces. So quite a bit more than, say, the heavy combo. Well, actually not much. What? About 2 ounces heavier than the stock Tokyo Marui bolt with the Hao Bolt End. Oh, real quick, I should have mentioned earlier, maybe I did already, I forget now, but the Hao Bolt End, you used to only be able to get these if you bought the Hao Bolt, which was like $55 or so. But now they started selling these separate, which is kind of cool, because I've kind of been praising this as the heaviest combo you can get, and it's really nice. It makes for a really fun shooting experience, as I said. So one of my buddies, he kind of emailed Hao, was like, hey, would you just sell me just the end piece? I don't need the bolt. And apparently they started listing this on the website separately, so now you can just buy the Hao Bolt end piece, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if you're after a heavy recoil setup, I'd recommend getting the Hao Bolt end piece, and then either maybe the Angry Gun buffer or just a real steel AR-15 buffer, which might be easier to source and stuff depending where you are. Yeah, basically it. Hope that helped you guys. Sorry for the long video. I'll do some timestamps below in the comments just to kind of help you if you know to watch this whole thing. All right, guys, take it easy.